Well, hello traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we're asking ourselves, what happened today? What does it tell us about the coming ones? Do the show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. And it's under the channel L.A. Little. And if you want to subscribe, you can. It's free. It's easy. All you got to do is reach up there and hit the button. If you want to become a member, $15 a month, get started. Live video trades, live trades every day. Whether you're day trading, whether you're swing trading, they're out there. Mentoring program to help you learn neoclassical. There's a lot going on. You ought to come check it out. As far as what happened today, let's take a look at these markets. And we had another up day. If we look at it closely, what we have is some pressure still in the NDX, big cap technology. You can't move the big caps. They don't want to move them. Growth is still not the ticket. The ticket right now is everything that's been beat up. If you go look at emerging markets, if you look at basic materials, if you look at commodities, if you look at anything that's been beat down 30-40%, that's what they're buying. That's classic bear market type action. And even though we look at these indexes and we see that they've risen, the Russell, again, another one's been beaten down, up 1%. And if you go across the board, you're up on these. The DAX actually was down a little bit today. Gold goes up, shoots up, tests the high. We'll look at it. But this is classic bear market action, even though we don't have any failures in the market tonight. Let's look at the market and see what I'm talking about. Starting here in the U.S. market, we'll go to the Nasdaq. Well, actually, let's go to the S&P 500 first. So the S&P 500, and what you're going to see on chart after chart after chart is each of these that have climbed are starting to come into what should be significant resistance. Claws into it today. The bottom of the swing point low over here was 1993.26. You get to 1993.40. You're pushing a decent volume as you're coming into it. The breakdown bar here had, what do we got there? It's 50.7. You do 50.8. So you're coming back into it with about the same amount of volume. Is that going to be enough to get over it after more than 6 bars? I don't think so. I think you're going to find that those who were trapped, you remember up here, as a matter of fact, you can see it. I'm going to bring over the weekly chart. Remember all of those folks who bought anywhere up in this area. They're trapped. And as price comes back up, right, and then if you go back, you're actually trapped down here before that. So anybody that's bought in this area, right, they're getting back to break even now. And so as price comes back up there, you're going to see more and more pressure from people that are holding, have been holding, to let some of it go. And if we ever get back up into this area, you'll see a lot of that let's let it go stuff. Weekly chart and daily chart, both doing the same thing, right? Retest, regen. This is the retest, regen going on here. It can take you up to about 2020. If you look at it over here on the daily, the price point up on the top here is about 20, I think it was 2022 if I remember right, 2022.92. And then finally, if you do the ABCD structure off the lows, that gets you right up to about the same price point. And so all of them pointing into the same area, and you've just started into the bottom of it. And when you go more than 6 bars, probabilities that you get deep into the retest regen on the first push, especially if it's a straight push, and this one's not exactly straight, but it's a pretty good one. Odds of getting deep into it, not that great. You're probably going to see something come up. Maybe it's the employment number tomorrow, but something come up to cause this market to take a break and to push back to the downside. If we look at the Nasdaq, on the Nasdaq, you're seeing exactly what I talked to members about. Oh, actually, it was this weekend. I actually told them expect this scenario, expect the S&P to go up potentially to get into that swing point low and do the retest regen. Expect the Nasdaq not to be able to get over the breakdown bar, right? The big wide price spread bar. It's still up underneath it, right? It's poised there, but it can't get over it. And if you go look at the NDX, you have the same thing on the NDX, just a little worse. And that is that it can't even get to it, right? Still hasn't gotten to it. It's barely gotten over the swing point high, and it's sitting there hanging at that level, being held up, in this case, by the Nasdaq, and not the Nasdaq, but the S&P, and in particular by the Russell. Here's the Russell. The Russell, of course, its swing point low is way up here. It's grinding up there towards it. If you do the ABCD structure on this one, it's already completed. It's already over. All these markets starting to get stretched. And if you pull this one over and you look at it on a weekly time frame, you're coming right into the bottom of what? The bearish retest regen. And what is it? More than 6 bars. That's going to try to turn this thing back around and head back the other way. And so you're seeing this in chart after chart after chart, all of them starting to line up for some event to take this market back to the downside. Overseas, we'll go over to the world markets. I'm gonna pull up the DAX to start with. The DAX hits a roadblock, is up there pushing into the swing point high. Swing point high is 99.05. You get to 98.37 yesterday. You push to 98.08 today. Again, you don't have failures anywhere. You're just pushing up into what is the next resistance areas, and they're struggling as they get there. If I look at the CACs, remember the CACs had already gotten over the swing point high. So you get over the swing point high the day before. That was this bar, but what is it doing? It's right back in there doing a bullish retest regen off of it. But it's also trapped with a bearish retest regen just above it. And so you've kind of got dual-edged swords here. One of them pushing it. If it gets a little bit higher, that one's going to push on it. Folks, when you layer resistance on top of resistance all the way down, the push back up gets a lot harder. HSI, the Hang Seng, remember, had the huge spike yesterday. That was a lot of short covering, it looked like. It did come down, test into the bottom of it. 19,783 gets to 19,791. So not quite a full test, but it does hold. That says, hey, it's going to try to push back the other way, right? If you can't break it down, swing point high is there, 20,234. If I go over to the Shanghai pushing a bunch of volume now as it comes off these lows. Remember, the Shanghai had not broken the latest one, was unable to even print a swing point low here, so all it's dealing with is swing point highs as it comes back and breakdown bars. And if you look at it, you've got 2 breakdown bars lined up almost exactly the same. That's going to create some significant resistance there potentially. That's the target. That's where it's trying to get to. If you look at some of these charts, though, on a little bit longer term time frame, you got a lot of problems, right? You broke a swing point low. You're doing an immediate retest regen. Now, the good thing about it is it's a huge retest regen in terms of a wide price spread bar, right? So it can go way up. But if you look a little bit farther, you've got some other swing point lows inside of it, in particular these. And so I suspect it's going to get up into that area, and then that's where it's going to meet its significant resistance if and when it gets there. And so you've got resistance layer after resistance layer all the way back up on almost every index you look at. And it's not just indexes. It's sectors as well. I mean, let's just take a look at a strong one, for example. Look at the SOX. The SOX has had a tremendous run on the way back up. Let's grab that chart. There we go. And if we look at it, what do we have there? Well, as it makes this big run, right, and you got an ABCD structure to push it, as it makes that run, what does it do? Comes right into a bearish retest regenerate, right? It's coming into it right now. So if I pull this away so you can see it, you can see how the price point is almost there. And you're going to find this on chart after chart. I mean, if I go Let's take XLF, which just broke out, right? Just broke over the swing point high. What is it doing? Well, it's coming into a swing. It just got over these two swing point highs. It's coming into this breakdown bar. High on it is here. If it gets over it, right, if it can get to it and get over it, then it's going to face all these swing point lows that were left up above. And that's just half the story. You go over and take a look at the weekly chart. I mean, pull the weekly chart up. What are you doing there? You're coming back into an area where you're going to have resistance. I mean, just look at the volumes on the chart, right? These areas that you're coming back into, right? As you come back into here, you got an overlap. That's going to be resistance. Then you got your swing point lows up here, the bearish retest regions. It's on every chart you look at, and that's because we've sold down as far as we have. I could give you more examples, but I think you get the feel for it. The one thing that continues to be kind of baffling is the currencies. You know, we got the employment number tomorrow, and if you look at the euro flipped around, headed back up today, right? It tested, and now flips back around. Now, remember, the euro was supposed to hold the bullish retest regenerate zone. That was up here. It gave it up, trades lower, trades down into the swing point low and does a test, unable to break it down, right? So if you look at the volumes on it, you know, there we had about 1.17. Here we're doing 460. So you're unable to break it down on the test. So you flip it around. You're going to go back up. You're going to test now into the big bar's bottom. The low there is 107.26. Today you trade at 107.27. So you test into it. Looks like it's going to try to fail there on that resistance and try to flip around again. Why would the euro go down tomorrow? Well, the dollar would go up. Why would the dollar go up? Maybe you get a really strong employment number. Maybe it's so strong it gets people talking about the Fed raising rates a lot sooner. Maybe that hits the market. I don't know. All I know is that the currency markets are having a hard time figuring this out, and they're probably as confused as I am about what to do next. But if you just look at those things we just talked about, 25.27 on this swing point low as you come back into it, 25.29 you get to, you know, just looks to me like these, for whatever reason, the dollar wants to try to trade higher. You've also got the ECB next Thursday, and that's probably part of it as well. That's making this a little bit of a mumble jumble. Elsewhere, West Texas Intermediate, I'm not going to try to pull up that chart. I'll just show you here on the USO. You can see that this keeps grinding higher. It did get over, did get back under. And actually, I will pull up a chart of it to show it. Here's that swing point high. Top of it was 34.82. Today you close it at 34.73. So you're testing into that area. So far, hasn't been able to break it. Volume 597 contracts, you're doing 833 at the top. So far, this is failing. This also happens to be a bearish retest regen off that same price point. So it's a second attempt to get over it. Again, the volume here, certainly more than the volume you're pushing into it. It's been a straight line move. They keep grinding it up. It's not a bad angle, right? 45 degrees is about like that, so it's not a terribly tough angle. You've covered a lot of ground already after this test of the low. Can it get over it, right? Can it shoot on up and get now get some sort of escalation going? And what will that do to the market if it does? Right now, the market likes it because it's not breaking down and going to 20. Are they going to like it at 40? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's the sort of thing that we have to look at the market and decide what the market thinks about it. You know, in neoclassical, we don't try to tell ourselves what's going to happen as much as to look at what happens and then use that information to make trades beyond that time frame. So to wrap this back up, you know, if we come back to the daily chart, you were in the resistance zone now. We're in it now. We've cut into it tonight. We're right into the edge of it. We've had a pretty good move up. And again, you always need to look at the compression of time. Look at the angle of ascent, right? And compare it to a 45-degree angle. When you get an angle of ascent where it's very steep and you don't get enough time, usually you're going to get some sort of pushback. and it usually comes at some sort of a critical point. I think you're at that point. Breakdown bar, swing point low. I think we're going to see something try to manifest itself back to the downside. There's no failures yet. Make no mistake. You're just extending to the point where you should see sellers come in, and that will be the test. Have a great night, folks. Thanks for joining me. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and it was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I'll see you Sunday night here for the weekend wrap. Good night.